What's going on? It's your boy Sermon at Sermon's Domain on Twitter. Well. The absolute last thing that anybody expected was a new Eminem album. Seriously, there was talks that M was still working on music back in like January, but nobody expected an album so soon. That's not really his style. This album is titled Kamikaze. And what was cool about this was it was like a total surprise. There was no advance warning. There was no leaks like, oh yeah, Eminem's gonna drop a surprise. No, it really just came out of nowhere. And I think that helped contribute to the discussion online, which has been fantastic. It's been entertaining to say the least. So why another album so soon? The only explanation I could come up with is that maybe this might be his last album under Aftermath and Interscope, so that Eminem can go over to Def Jam with Paul. Paul Rosenberg is currently president over at Def Jam, and I imagine M would want to move Shady over there at some point. Kamikaze is basically Eminem attacking everybody who's criticized him, who's dissed him in the last few years, and anybody from this new generation that can't rap. This album is basically a whole fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, you're cool, fuck you. Like, that's the type of music that you get on here. And honestly, this is the best rapping that I've heard from Eminem in years. Certainly much better than Revival, and I liked 5 or 6 songs off that album. But this album, Kamikaze, is M focused. We know that when Eminem is focused and really going at people, he's always been lyrically at his best. You look at all the classic diss records he's got against the likes of Ja Rule, Benzino, Cannabis, etc. Like, M is good at really just diminishing whoever he's going at. And so he does that a lot on this album, which is cool until you realize that Eminem is 45 years old. Now, I know this is the part where Eminem stands watching this are going to be like, so who cares, whatever. I don't think this is how a veteran / legend should behave. Like, it's cool for Eminem to respond to Joe Budden and Machine Gun Kelly. That's cool because obviously they did something that angered Eminem. But throwing shade at this new generation has never been cool to me. I'm not saying M needs to go out and embrace Lil Yachty, but the shot at Lil Yachty felt real unnecessary on the intro. I just think that in this day and age, we need to shift from complaining about what we don't like to trying to make the change. So if Eminem truly hates most of this generation, he hates the mumble rap, he hates the drugs, the lean, all of that, make a conscious effort to put on artists that you really like. So my thing is, M needs to put on people. And he signed, the whole Griselda records under Shady. He's got Boogie. But these guys aren't really getting too much push from M. It's kind of like M is real hands-off. But they're still under that Shady umbrella. If you have these talented artists, why are they not on your album? Why are they not being pushed to the people that love your music? Eminem fans are very loyal and they love his rap. But they also have this kind of like elite complex where they think that anything that isn't what Eminem's doing on that same scale isn't hip-hop. Like, hip-hop is supposed to be this, and this. It's never supposed to evolve. That's the one thing that I've always hated about Eminem and his fans, is that they act that way. They're not open-minded. And granted, if M listened and said, it's not for me, cool. Move on. Like I said, put some people that you like on. So with this album, you get the fact that Eminem can rap. Good, we knew this. I didn't need another album of M trying to out-rap everybody to prove that he is a top-tier lyricist. I think at this point in his career, I want to see some growth from Eminem. I might be alone in this, but I think Eminem is at his best when he's focused and being self-reflective. That word focus is probably going to come up a lot throughout this review. For me, the best song on here isn't one where he's going at people. It's one where he's apologizing and telling a story. Stepping Stone is Eminem reflecting on the demise of D12 and how he feels that he used them as a stepping stone in a sense. He feels that he used D12 to continue to propel his fame as an artist, and ultimately the rest of the group didn't get to reap the same benefits for the long term. I really like this song because D12 was amazing. The two albums that they have are, dare I say, classic. Especially the first one. That I have that on CD. I love that album so much. So I thought it was cool for him to get like this and talk about how he felt and how things dissolved and how he's not just trying to place blame on anybody but himself. Now, I don't want a whole album of Eminem saying, I apologize for this, I apologize for that. There is a way to be self-reflective and grown up without having to apologize on every song, though. I don't want people to think that I hate Kamikaze, though. I do not, because I don't hate the album. I think this is M's best album overall in years. I do have my gripes with it, but I do have to give him praise because M is really rapping on here. So I kind of mentioned the intro in him throwing the shot at Lil Yachty, but The Ringer was really good for the fact that M also addressed his last album, Revival, not doing as well, and he likens it to the fact that he dissed Donald Trump. And whether or not that really was the key factor here, who knows? But I think the fact that he addresses Trump in the way that he does on here is going to make people appreciate it just a little bit more. And I had to read the passage because the passage is really dope. This is some grade A Eminem rapping. He said, "But if I could go back, I'd at least reword it and say I empathize with the people this evil serpent sold the dream to that he's deserted, but I think it's working. These verses are making him a wee bit nervous and he's too scared to answer me with words because he knows that he will get lyrically murdered. But I know at least he's heard it because Agent Orange just sent the Secret Service to meet in person to see if I'm really thinking of hurting him or ask if I'm linked to terrorists. I said only when it comes to ink and lyricists." That is a really dope way to address it. And then I also like another line on here that really kind of shows off more of like M's like funny personality. The stuff that kind of made his earlier music, like the big hit singles, made him good but corny. Funny but corny is how I would describe it. He said, "Jesus Christ, man, how many times is someone gonna fuck my bitch?" And then he yells out, "Fuck my side chick." For people that want a little taste of the old school Eminem, I think the closest you're gonna get is on the Paul and M skits on this album. Paul is the calm overthinker. He calls on one of the skits and says, "Hey, I don't know if you should be dissing everybody. You're gonna do Kamikaze 2 after everybody talks about this one." And then M comes back with, talking about how there was a person that reviewed it and said he rhymed this with this and tried to explain it and break it down. He said, "I found his address. He lives in Detroit. I'm about to go to his house right now." Like, that is the closest we'll get to like the psychotic M that we had in his early days, where he was talking about, mass murder and, everything like that. So in some ways, M has definitely grown, but I feel like it's not all the way there. When you get to the last 3 songs on the album, they feel kind of distant from the rest of the material. After you listen to Fall and you go into Nice Guy, Good Guy, and Venom, you can tell that they were kind of tacked on for a commercial purpose. Because let's be honest, it's going to kind of be hard to push a Joe Budden diss or an MGK diss or Eminem dissing this entire generation. It's going to be hard to kind of push those records to radio. So you got these two singles that are really good. They sound almost like revival leftovers, but they're good. Jessie Reyes is on both of them, and she helps make the record. M is focused. He sounds good. There's that word again, focused. And Jessie Reyes kills it. I hope that people that listen to those songs want to look her up because she's very talented. And the last song on this album is Venom, which will be on which is from the soundtrack to the upcoming Marvel Sony movie, you know, the whole Venom character. And I'm not too impressed with this song, but I get it. I get why they tapped Eminem for it, and it's a good look to kind of roll it out this way. I have a couple of, you know, random things that I was thinking of about this album before I kind of wrap up. I wrote down one lyric in particular that I liked. He said, "Put me on a track, I go cray on it like a coloring book." I go crayon. I like that. I like that Eminem can, you know, really focus on his play on words. And so that is like a shining example of it. Tay Keith, he is a producer that is having one hell of a year. Producing for Drake, Travis Scott, and, you know, so many others. And now he's made it onto an Eminem album. While the track, Not Alike, kind of sounds like a bare skeleton for the Block Boy JB and Drake record Look Alive, this is a dope record. I think it's a little ironic in a sense that Eminem is kind of using some of the styles and sounds of the artists that he's been dissing. Like on Greatest, before I'll go back to Not Alike in a second, but on Greatest, he says, "Woke up to honkies sounding like me." Now, as far as I know, Playboi Carti's the only person that's ever said, "Woke up to rappers sounding like me." So it's clear that M is actually listening to different people from the new generation, but I think it was a little ironic, and maybe that's the point. I don't know, but going back to Not Alike reunites M and Royce da 5'9" together. Royce killed it, M killed it, and that's all I gotta say about that record. I do wonder how much of Kamikaze is good for the long term. Now, what I mean by that is when you first listen to this album, remember how you felt. You're like, damn, M's doing this, this, and this. But the more you listen to it, is this the type of album that has staying power? Are we going to hear this album 3-4 months down the road? Are you going to want to listen to this album in 3 or 4 months? That's kind of where I'm at with the music. I think Kamikaze is Eminem's best album in years overall, but I do question if it's just the shock value, the fact that I wasn't expecting this album and that he's going at everybody who's ever dissed him, including the grocer that wouldn't ring up his groceries fast enough. But I do wonder, like, what's the long-term play here? Is this an album that I'm going to want to listen to, 3-4 months down the road? I think there are a few songs on here that I will pick out, especially Stepping Stone, because I think that is just the direction that I would love to see Eminem go in. So as I said, I don't know where Kamikaze will end up in a couple months. Maybe we'll talk about it towards the year end. But I do know that I enjoyed this album. For this moment in time, I enjoyed the album. So those are my thoughts on Eminem's Kamikaze album. Came out of nowhere. Now that I've talked about it, I do want to hear your guys' thoughts. Do you agree with my opinion? Disagree? Talk to me in the comment section below, and then like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, share the video. Follow me on Twitter @SermonsDomain, and as always, thank you for your time. I appreciate you for watching, and until next time, peace.